For that, Lance, I pray your numbers will rise, right? Anyway, I do want to honor all of you. Thank you for coming here tonight and being a part. So let's give them a clap. You know, Gene, and my wife, my beautiful wife, is sitting down there. I have not changed in who I am. And those of you that have been around for my ministry, I've always preached bold, strong, confronting the culture.
Yes, you have.
That kind of thing. The problem was, my church was staying the same size, and people would come and visit and they'd walk out the door, and it would mess with my head. You know, like, God, what am I doing wrong, you know? And yet I was preaching in a lot larger venues outside of this venue, you know, and it would mess with me. I'm like, well, how come when I come here it's not happening? And it was a fight because people, you know, I was confronting things. God was prophesying things that he's going to expose the CIA, the Secret Service, the FBI. He's talking about how he's going to do this with this president. And people at that time, everything was going great. I don't know, they just would walk out, and it was a fight. And then when COVID hit, it was really interesting to me. The people stayed with me because at first we were like, oh, okay, well, there's a safety risk. What's this about? Then when I realized it didn't take long that I was getting played. And I wrote a letter to the governor, to the mayor, and I said, we are not honoring this, these shutdowns. We have a bar that's still open. Strip clubs down the street are still open. And unless you want us to all get naked, we're not, you know, if COVID doesn't affect the naked, you know, we aren't complying. Okay? We're not doing this. And so we opened up, stayed open. We were like one of the only ones around here. And the more, let me tell you, Gene, the more I would preach bold to the camera and to the masses that come on Sunday, I mean, our online audience started, I mean, it was always growing, right, Brenda? But the masses started coming. And the more I would preach bold, like I always preach, but I would say it, the more people like you who had enough started coming. And I started watching God building a righteous rebellion.
Right.
So that's what I think was amazing for me is it was a fight, but then I realized that there were others that felt that same fight. And when we joined arms together, we were like, you know what, we're gonna take our country back. And we're gonna see God do something. And I think that was the difference, but it was harsh. And I'm just gonna say this last thing. I think what I dealt with on a personal level is there were times where I would prophesy the word of the Lord out here, and it would just seem like empty words because there were people I could feel didn't believe it. And that was the struggle for all of us, was when we were saying, you know, God's gonna do this. This is what the Lord is saying. It was really hard, Gene, sometimes to get the people to see that this wasn't just made up words. God had a plan and does have a plan for President Trump, for his church, but really for the nations of the earth at this time.
Well, and you know, yeah, give him a hand, would you? Amen, Pastor.
I hope I answered your question. I don't answer your question, so
I know you don't. Yeah.
Slammy, I've made a mental note of your language there. And the fact of the matter is, this administration is providing more interesting entertainment. I mean, and then Trump today in classic fashion, when he's being in a question and answer period, he tells the reporter, that was a very stupid question. He's the only guy I know that leaves a church service and writes a letter saying he demands an apology for a bad sermon. He did. He demands an apology for a bad... He has a certain sermon he wants, and that was lousy. Did you like it? I didn't like it.
No, not at all. All right.
He's saying it to reporters.
Let me connect to Fort Worth. Guys, I want to play one of those Kash Patel clips because this was... So,
oh, the 2-minute warning.
7.
Let's see that one.
Let's see. Go ahead. Kash Patel. Watch what happened with him.
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Now, what I notice here, Rick, is I'm seeing a different level of pushback. You know, with these, and I agree with, I'm like Lance, I didn't really care to watch Senate nomination or hearings and all that. But I mean, we're like, turn it on. Do we have Sirius XM in the rental car? Oh yeah, we got it. All right, let's listen here.
And get the popcorn.
Yeah.
You gotta have the popcorn ready. Believe me, as Senator. But you know, and I said verbally body slam. It's not just bullish though. It's intellectual, right?
That's what I was going to say.
It's like every time it's just like when I can't remember. It might have been Sanders right after that. Whenever he's basically trying to get RFK to say that health care is a human right, that you have a right to this. And you know, we've all said for 20 years, 30 years, that's not a human right. Health care is not a human right. And RFK was able to articulate that in a way that helps educate Americans. So it's not just that you get the zingers in. You know, to Lance's point earlier, we have to be thinking 2 years, 4 years, 10 years down the road. We have to use this window of opportunity to clean out the rot in the culture and educate the American people. What Lance was saying about changing the opinions of Americans, that's what's happening right there. They're winning people over. You watch Tulsi and you just watch the professionalism and you watch the intellectual prowess. We haven't seen that in a long time, right? And they're not just winning in terms of, running circles around these senators. They're educating the American people. And that's what's going to happen during this next phase, because we can't just celebrate. It is going to, every 4 years, we're back, ping pong. We have to do these things that actually change underneath for the long term. And I would add to Lance's list from earlier, I think we also have to be working towards constitutional amendments that actually restore the jurisdictions of government, because that's harder for them to change in 4 years or 8 years or whatever. But anyway, this is just so entertaining to watch. But when you're watching it, be thinking about, wow, that was really good. That gets to the heart of the principles of liberty. RFK may not even realize he's espousing biblical values, but actually he's a pretty staunch Catholic. I think he's got a stronger foundation there than sometimes we think.
I think so too. And but here's the thing: you don't have to agree with these guys on everything. Yeah. You're not appointing them to be the pastor in your church or a spiritual group leader, okay? Because there are some things that I don't agree with on RFK. There's things with Tulsi Gabbard. I'm going, I don't know. In fact, you know what? Let me just show you Tulsi Gabbard's opening statement. Watch.
I'm honored and grateful to President Trump for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve our country as the Director of National Intelligence at a time when trust in the intelligence community, unfortunately, is at an all-time low. Chuck Schumer admitted a few years ago, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." For too long, faulty, inadequate, or weaponized intelligence have led to costly failures and the undermining of our national security and God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution.
Tulsi Gabbard, strong lady. Now, I did not know until I was listening to the news driving up here about the gray streak in her hair. And do you guys know why she has that? In combat, she dealt with so much, she was in some pretty rough combat. She got that gray streak after coming back home. So they were like, well, do you want to color it and get rid of it? And she was like, no, it helps me remember. So my respect went up, when I heard that, about that. I didn't know that. It's just been so amazing. All right, so on the other side, and I want to make sure that as a body, as a church body, whether you're watching on television or in the room here, that we talk about what happened last night in Washington, D.C. Let me play you this clip from the Associated Press about this horrific crash. Watch.
This is the moment a regional passenger jet carrying 64 people collided mid-air with an army helicopter near Washington, D.C. The 2 aircraft plunged into the icy waters of the Potomac River, prompting a massive search and rescue operation. But despite the rescue crew's best efforts, all of the passengers are feared dead, making it the deadliest U.S. air crash in nearly 24 years.
We are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
Officials said flight conditions were clear as the jet coming from Wichita, Kansas was making a routine landing when the helicopter flew into its path. The crash occurred in some of the most tightly controlled and monitored airspace in the world, just over 3 miles south of the White House and the US Capitol. Passengers on the flight included a group of figure skaters, including 2 Russian champions, their coaches and family members who were returning from a development camp in Wichita.
So, Tony, I want you to lead us in prayer for the families, but I also want you to pray that we get, President Trump's comments in this press conference today about this horrific accident, he said, we're not going to take 3 years of an investigation to get to the bottom of this. So we want to pray to find out what happened, why it happened, so that it doesn't happen again. Not to blame somebody, but we don't want this thing happening again of what happened last night in D.C. So Tony, lead us. Posted this on X about Planned Parenthood. You see what they said there? Planned Parenthood condemns Trump's pardons of pro-life Americans, saying praying is violence. Pastor Hank, you told me you had a Planned Parenthood in the parking lot here not long ago.
There was a Planned Parenthood here for over 40 years. And when we started our church 27 years ago, they were here and they were rooted deeply. And so one day I pulled into the plaza. How do you like the headquarters here? And Spirit of God said, Hank, I Planned Parenthood here. And I stopped. And I said, that doesn't sound right. And then he said, why do you tolerate them? This has grieved me. And he said, it's why you're not seeing the fruit of what you're praying here happening. And so he said, I planned Parenthood. I planned you and Brenda here as spiritual parents to the body of Christ. Then he said this, he said, do something about it. Well, we didn't go protesting and all. We just prayed privately, gathered the intercessors, we fasted, we prayed. You all know, quietly, didn't tell anybody for probably about, Golly, a year, 2 years. It was strong warfare. One day we pull in, they have a moving van. I sent one of my staff members over and said, what's going on? And the lady, what demons do, kind of like what, you see that one guy, okay, I gotta tell you. Bernie Sanders, that kind of spirit. Reminds me of the Muppets.
Yes.
Okay, did you hear what I said? Okay.
Yes. Okay.
But anyway, she manifested. It's not working here. Ah. That's what she said. It's not working here.
That's awesome.
Of course it's not, because God, and so there's the power of prayer. And we weren't, we just believe in life at conception, So, of course they're going to attack that and they're going to make it out like it's some, what they don't realize is the violence of what happens to the child in the womb. But I'm hearing God speaking to me, Gene.
Please.
Can I release it?
Yes, sir.
Spirit of God says, you have known me as the Ancient of Days. You have known me as the Alpha and the Omega. You have known me as the God of the now. But I speak to you that are looking at this time, these 100 days, or these hours. But you are looking at the 100 days. You're looking at the nation. You're looking at the midterms. You're looking at what shall arise even in 2028 and beyond. And God says, do you know that even my name is I am the God of the new? Pay attention. I said out of New York would arise one that I would place my hand upon. He has been placed. He has been seated now. And you will see even New York begin to shift. The leadership begin to shift. And New York shall shift red. Pay attention to New Hampshire, New England, for they too shall shift to the way of conservatism and to the way of the new, my agenda that I have promised that I would give your children a future. But pay attention, look to New Mexico, and then they will surely say, what is this that is happening? Is this New California? Yes, for they have lied to you, says the Spirit of God. They are not just just read with indignation, but they are read with a movement that shall arise. And you speak of a golden era. You watch California, for I shall restore the gold of what it has been through the decades, says the Spirit of God, and out of the ashes shall rise something beautiful in this nation. And you have heard it said that I would get my honor upon Pharaoh, and I will get my honor even among those who stood in this nation and mocked me and tried to rename this country and to rename your history and pushed me out and the remembrance of my name. But you stood, and now the God of the new comes to you. And I will do new things even in your families, your finances. Pay attention to your gold. Pay attention to your silver. Pay attention to your currency. Pay attention to your economy. Pay attention even as I expand maps. And there will be new names as you are seeing. And this will change. And it will even come as you will come into new things that you have desired, because I will bless you in the new. Pay attention, Israel. You will become new. And there will come a strange alliance that will happen, for Arab nations shall suddenly come, and there will be a handshaking with the man who has been in this nation. But also I speak of Netanyahu and the Arab nations, and for a season you will shake hands, and you will embrace the new that shall arise, as names of countries will change, and territories and borders too. And no, this is not the time where they will say, what is this peace? Is sudden destruction then coming? God says, no, that is not the time. I want you to experience the new, because it is connected to my glory, my revival, and my reform. And even the land of Israel that I have given to them, the maps will change. And you look at the new land. It has been theirs, but I will mark it for this present moment and for history to see the expansion of the state of Israel. I will do this in Ukraine as I will take from the ashes beauty, and I will give them something new that will arise. And this will happen in the United Kingdom as my sovereignty comes. And Scotland, you pay attention to the new in Canada. New leadership that shall set you on the course of freedom and liberty again, says the Spirit of the living God.